Four MIT students started a company in 2022. 4 years later, they just sold it to SpaceX for $60 billion. That's more than what Disney paid for Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar combined. The CEO, he's 25 years old. And this deal might have just changed the AI wars forever. This is a story of a startup called Cursor. So let's talk about the founder. Who exactly is the founder? So Michael Truill started coding at 11 years old when he was making mobile games. And by the time he got to MIT, he was studying computer science and mathematics alongside three other brilliant students. And these three other students so happened to become his co-founders. So in 2022, fresh out of school, they had an idea. What if AI could actually help developers write code better and faster? So they raised a tiny $400,000 pre-seed round and got to work. And what's crazy is none of them had built a company before. None of them had a successful exit. This was literally their first shot, and they were able to build one of the fastest growing enterprise products in history. So let's talk about the product itself. I know a lot of people know about Cloud Code. We know about OpenAI. Cursor is within the same discussion. It's the same exact industry. So what is Cursor? Cursor isn't just another coding assistant. It's an AI-powered code editor with chat, autocomplete, and autonomous agents that can handle entire coding tasks independently. So while GitHub Copilot was making suggestions, Cursor was writing entire functions. And the traction that Cursor had was actually pretty crazy. They went from $0 to $2.6 billion in ARR. Yes, they had made $2.6 billion in under 4 years. Cursor attracted 30,000 enterprise customers, and they had backing by some of the biggest names in venture capital. A16Z, Accel, Thrive Capital. They even had backing from NVIDIA, Google, and funny enough, OpenAI Startup Fund. So yeah, Cursor was and is this amazing tool that developers absolutely love. Their net promoter score for developers were through the roof. And it's not surprising. And funny enough, before this acquisition took place, before they got acquired for $60 billion, there's been rumors that Cursor has actually been turning down multiple acquisitions because they actually believe that this could be something bigger. And it looks like they're right. All right, so let's talk about the actual numbers, the numbers of this acquisition. So the team Cursor raised $3.5 billion in venture capital. Even saying that alone is pretty crazy, but that's where we're at right now when it comes down to the space of AI. They are raising a large amount of money and it looks like it's paying off. So yeah, they raised $3.5 billion in venture capital. SpaceX then came calling with a $60 billion all-stock acquisition. One of the things that you know from some of the videos we didn't do in the past is acquisitions can be one of a few approaches. You can either be an all cash, all stock, or a combination of both. All cash is cool because you already get the liquid and you put it in your pocket. You'll be able to spend the money when you want to. But when it's all stock, there's a holding period. And that holding period could be months, could be years. But once it's over, you finally have ownership of a certain percentage of stocks within a deal. So yeah, they were able to raise $3.5 billion in capital. They got acquired for $60 billion in all stock. And to put that into perspective, this is one of the largest software acquisitions in history. The revenue multiple alone was 20x ARR. And typically with acquisitions in software, it's not even close to 20x. They try to go between 5 to 7x ARR. And that's with software. But when it came down to AI specifically, you've been seeing a lot of acquisitions take place on average around 5 to 10x. So what does that mean? That means that SpaceX paid a massive premium for Cursor. And some would say they made that premium, they made that $60 billion cost because they needed it. They needed to prove a point that they have some sort of strength or ownership within the AI space. So SpaceX made a bet. It just happens to be a very expensive bet. So why now? Why did SpaceX decide to make this acquisition now? So we know that SpaceX went public and they made an IPO June 11th. of this year, 2026. And then within 5 days, they announced the Cursor acquisition. Now, this wasn't a surprise. It wasn't spontaneous. We knew that this was coming. But why did SpaceX make this huge $60 billion bet on Cursor? And it's because SpaceX and xAI, which merged earlier this year in 2026, are in an all-out war with OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Microsoft for enterprise AI dominance. So this acquisition of Cursor gives SpaceX that immediate credibility. So what SpaceX is getting upon this acquisition is they're getting that $2.6 billion revenue generating business. They're getting the amazing coding product that Cursor is. And they're also getting 30,000 enterprise customers or relationships. And the idea behind this competition with Microsoft is that every developer who is using Cursor, rather than using GitHub from Copilot or GitHub from Microsoft, is a win against Microsoft. So what's next with this acquisition? It's pretty clear. So the founders are going to be joining SpaceX after this $60 billion acquisition. Those super young founders, co-founders, 25 years old, are now billionaires, which is crazy. And a team of 400 will now be joining SpaceX. And one thing that I think we're all very rare know about Elon Musk is he's a big fan of trimming down the meat, or the fat of the meat, I should say. So 400 people will be joining SpaceX. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts a round of layoffs and slimming down that number from 400 to probably even half. Kind of the same thing that he did with Twitter. So yeah, that is it. That's this acquisition. Super interesting. SpaceX needs to be able to prove that they can have some sort of footing in the enterprise software space. And this acquisition is exactly that. This is SpaceX saying, hey, we might not be able to build a product immediately to prove our value of $1.2 trillion, which is crazy. But what they can do is be able to raise capital from the public market and raise that capital to acquire one of the many dominant AI names in the coding space of AI, which is Cursor. So they paid $60 billion for a company that was owned and founded by some 25-year-olds and even younger, with the hopes of having some sort of control or share within the enterprise space. So it might pay off. Will it pay off to the point in which it proves that SpaceX is worth $1.2 trillion? I don't know, but that's another reason why SpaceX has a lot of different arms. They don't want to just focus on AI. They want to focus on space travel. They want to focus on pushing data centers to space. So this is just one of the ways that they want to make money to prove their valuation. But we'll see if it pays off. Right now, the stock is trading at $200. Let's check in next year and see where they're at. All right, folks, that is it for today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. What do you think about this acquisition? We've seen it coming. We knew it was going to come. They gave us a heads up a couple of weeks ago. The acquisition that SpaceX had with xAI was something that we've seen happen earlier this year in 2026. So them having to make another acquisition like this is not too surprising, because they need to be able to have some sort of dominance in the AI space, and Cursor gave them that dominance. 30,000 customers. Absolutely amazing. I'm really curious to know if those 30,000 customers are going to stay with Cursor even after this acquisition. Only time will tell. So yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe, add your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Peace.